Aloha Maui Nui. Hello, this is Josh Porter.
And Jason Burkhart.
Welcome to the Solar Coaster, episode 103.
103, that is correct.
103, and we're back on streaming right now. Checking this amazing stuff out here. If you want to, how can they find us, our live stream from the studio, Jay?
If you go to the website, solar-coaster.com, there is a YouTube stream live link right there, and you can actually jump in the studio with us and watch our all product placement and how that the solar coaster actually runs on sugar.
There we go. Very good stuff. Very good stuff.
Chemical energy.
Pretty exciting technology we're using here. So this is going to be a good show. We're actually, I would say, a pretty pivotal show, really. This is with Gwen Yamamoto Lau, who's the executive director of HGIA. What does that stand for, Jay? Do you remember? GEMS. And covering the on-bill financing program was just launched about a week ago on April 8th. Throughout Big Island, Maui County, that's Molokai, Lanai, Maui, as well as Oahu. 95% of Hawaii's residents, I think she said, have access to solar now, solar hot water.
To this program.
And this program,
Yeah, what I want to say, teach me to put something in my mouth. This is not a scam. This is not a joke. This is a way to save money on your electric bill. You don't get any additional loans or obligations except your electric bill. You will pay less per month, and you get access to solar and other energy efficiency technologies through this program. It is crazy. Stay on and listen to all of this.
It's very exciting stuff, yeah. And it is. You'll hear the details directly from the executive director momentarily when we get into our main show focus. But there are some amazing opportunities and benefits to this program, and so stay tuned. Anyone can get solar. That's what's happening. Thank you to Governor Ige and to Gwen and to all the other people that are involved. The utilities playing a major role as well. So let's check all that out. Okay. So let's get into our housekeeping. We'll jump over our news and events, and we'll hear from Gwen shortly. So, hey, aloha, folks. This is the Solar Coaster. We are a renewable energy themed talk show right here in lovely Maui County. We can be found Fridays at 1:05 p.m. on Kauai, 1110 a.m. Also, some FM stations: 96.7 FM Central Maui, 96.5 FM Westside, 98.7 FM Upcountry.
With the introduction of streaming again, the website is getting better and better. www.solar-coaster.com. That's solar-coaster.com. It's hyphen. You can listen live, audio-wise. You can actually jump in on a YouTube channel right now. Of course, go down the bottom of every page, and you can fill out our subscribe to the mailing list, but also send us questions, comments. If you have a question about solar, you have a question about this GEMS program that we're going to be talking about all day, send us a note, solar-coaster.com. We're also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn, and a little Siri told me that if you ask to play the Solar Coaster podcast, it will do it for you.
Oh yeah, always works. Got some great sponsors out there: Sundrum Solar, Pantech Design, and LG Chem. These guys are doing really wonderful work out here, providing batteries, providing thermal heat exchanging systems, and smart house equipment. So it's kind of like the nice nice kind of diversity of sponsors we have these days. This is a call-in show, folks. 808-242-7800 is the call-in line. Our interview with Gwen is pre-recorded, so during that period, we won't be able to take any calls, but you can call in the future. Let's head over to our Pantech Design Minute.
Pantech Design Minute number 6, Smart Demand Control and Load Management. The Adapt Energy Automation Package optimizes your use of available clean energy when it is abundant and less expensive, like during low tariff or off-peak times.
By working together, the Adapt Energy Automation and the Sonnen EcoLink systems decrease load usage and discharge of your home battery when it matters most, to fully manage and maximize energy usage in your home.
For example, during time of use TOU windows, the EcoLinks and Adapt EA package can make adjustments in your home to drastically reduce your energy usage without disrupting your lifestyle.
So first, the EcoLink system could effectively flood the peak period by using clean, stored energy from your battery to power the home rather than relying on the grid. Secondly, load shedding commands could be used to maximize and extend the EcoLink's stored energy. For example, lowering the shades, dimming the lights, increasing the thermostat, and turning off non-essential appliances, which would decrease your energy consumption by 2,000 watts. For a 10 kilowatt hour Sonnen EcoLink system, that's an additional 2 hours worth of energy.
This has been the Pantech Design Minute.
There they go. Pantech Design kind of running through our minutes again.
It still blows me away. This is the second time we've actually gone through the series of all the things it's capable of. but it really is living in the future stuff.
It's exciting, and I know that more and more of the systems are getting deployed. We're going to get a chance to get inside one of those houses and actually experience it firsthand shortly. But if you can imagine, power outage, batteries working, talking to you, saying, "Hey, what do you want to do?" Shades operating, thermostats, all that.
Or better than that,
integrated.
I've got it handled because I saw the weather coming
Right.
before you did.
It's really neat, really neat
Your
stuff.
house telling you that.
Okay, so shall we jump over to our news and events?
Do need to do news and events right away. Coming off Forbes.com, there's the unreliable nature of solar and wind makes electricity more expensive than ever. New study finds.
This is quite a title here, very provocative. The author, it turns out, I'm not going to find this guy's name right away. It's Michael
Greenstone, Richard McDowell, and Ishan Nath.
Michael Schellenberger, I think, is the fellow that wrote this one up. And then he actually wrote an earlier article, and he quoted his earlier article about how he was one of the first authors to put out this kind of idea, and that he was attacked pretty hard. So it felt to me like when he put this out there, he's saying, look, I was right.
Yeah,
that's the flavor of this article, I get.
Trying to justify it.
Yeah.
I don't see it. Basically, what they're doing is they're going through and adding every single possible cost they can, including the decommissioning of other what they call stranded assets and stuff. It's
that
like
was
you
an
go out,
interesting point.
sure,
Right?
but I mean, you go out and you make a bad bet. You buy a car off of Craigslist, and it's kind of a lemon, and you got to put too much money. You got to put too much money into it, and it's just being a pain in the butt, right? And you decide a year or two later you are going to buy a new car. Right?
It's an EV this time.
It's an EV, sure. Whatever it happens to be, it doesn't really matter. The point is, do you go to the dealership and they're going to they tell you that the new Tesla thing is going to be $38,000? Well, do you add the cost of your old car as the stranded asset into the cost of the new car? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. This is a little unusual logic here, if you ask me. So they're basically saying that, hey, in the past, previous studies were misleading, they say, the economists note, because they didn't incorporate three key costs, which are unreliability of renewables, the large amounts of land they require, and the displacement of cheaper baseload energy sources like nuclear power plants. They also talk about this issue of these stranded assets being incorporated into it. So, but I mean, first of all, it hasn't gone through peer review yet. So it's really just kind of like a preliminary study.
Yep.
And I think that they are, it feels like it's got some agenda to it. It just feels like it's they're trying to make a point. Like this author says, "Hey, I put out this thing before, and everyone attacked me and said that I was not a great guy, and but now there's this new study coming out of Chicago, right? So we'll have to keep an eye on this. But it's interesting to hear different perspectives. They're also bringing up the cost of carbon and trying to relate this in, but they really haven't. I don't think they've done a really kind of like honed down kind of formula here.
It's literally just trying to find controversy.
Oh, you don't give it any credit. Okay.
I don't give it any credit at all.
So that's at Forbes. If you want to check that out and write some nasty comments to him, go for it.
Necessarily need to be
something
nasty.
positive over here from Green Tech Media in Europe says Europe's solar renaissance is on the horizon. So apparently there's been a lot of big uptick in renewable energy deployment all throughout Europe. This is a great article, by the way. It kind of gives you like this, these graphs, and it talks about all the different countries and how they're individually playing a role, what the costs to install utility scale solar is throughout Europe, and then what are some of the subsidies that are available and how they're panning out. The bottom line is that there was a bit of a dip in the last year or so, and now we're seeing it peak up again, and it looks very aggressive and really quite positive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're looking at less than $1. Was it $1 per
watt DC installed? Yeah.
Complete installed to all-in cost for European utilities, which is a tremendously low number, which of course plays nicely against our first news article.
Right. Very inexpensive. Yeah.
And there's a lot of information on here. I mean, we saw the issues with Germany. They also tried to denuclearize their electrical grid at the same time. They're making, you see their line on this graph is actually just skyrocketing now that they're putting this new energy in. And the best thing to come about is that we're now at a place where you can get storage with it too. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is part of the biggest argument, is if you're looking at solar and wind purely as solar panels and a windmill, it doesn't necessarily work. But as soon as you add storage to the mix, it becomes a much more stable platform to build an electrical grid on.
Sure. Yeah, they talk about how 10 gigawatts were installed in 2018 for the first time in 5 years.
Yep.
And the market should break through 20 gigawatt barrier by 2021. That's 20 gigawatts per year being installed, right? And if we remember, our global mark on that was like 108 gigawatts last year for the entire world. So that's about 20%-ish of what's going on globally is happening in Europe.
Yeah.
Will be happening. Right now it's 10%.
Yeah.
Right? So that's awesome. It's a cool article. It does give you a sense of kind of how it all shakes out in Europe and who's doing what and what the costs are and who's making progress. But all together, they're doing quite a bit. So what's the next one, Jay? You want to talk about this? I think you were excited about Daimler.
I liked watching this because the whole truck conversation is one that's really difficult to have. Besides the Tesla conversation, a lot of the traditional large-scale road vehicle manufacturers were being pretty tight-lipped with their plans, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go on record and saying, yes, we want to do electricity, yes, we want to do hydrogen, yes, we want to do fuels, anything. It was really, really difficult to have the conversation. Well, the Daimler, was it CEO? I guess so, got up.
Roger Nielsen
got up in front of a large audience and basically said, listen, battery electricity is the current path. It's the only one. He talked about hydrogen, talked about fuel cells, that he can see it, but it's not going to be this generation's engineers manufacturing those fuel cells. It's really going to be battery electric, and it's going to be all battery, not some kind of hybrid situation. So they've fielded 50 electric trucks. They have a fleet of electric school buses that they've put together, and they're going to be building these things in Portland, Oregon.
Nice. So it's
domestically,
right? U.S. manufacturing. That's interesting because there are some companies out there that are going different routes, right? You have Fuel Cells. Nikola, in particular, is really exciting. We were reading about them because of the Value Act investment in Nikola, private investment. They don't know the amount, but they're basically fueling up through hydrogen through solar and creating these semi-trucks.
Yeah, which of course is the right way to do it. I mean, either you charge the batteries from solar or you make hydrogen from the solar and ship that around. But either way, you want it to come from a renewable source. If you're still burning coal to make your hydrogen, it's completely inefficient.
But this is a different.
Don't do that.
I guess my point is that this is a different route than Nikola is taking.
Sure, absolutely. But I mean, again, at the end of the day, I thought it was fantastic for him to stand up. He was there in front of his peers, so a number of other trucking company executives, folks that are large-scale freight line owners, and said, "Listen, this is the way we're going." And if you don't know Daimler, they're the guys behind the freight line trucks. When you pull up at a stoplight and the truck comes up behind you and all you can see is the grill in the back, it says Freightliner on it.
Right.
That's them.
Okay, so they're major players. They're
major players.
Can we jump over to some EV discussion with Mr. Musk?
I thought that was EV.
That was
with Mr. Musk.
yeah, electric trucks.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't know, can we play this or will that actually work on here? I don't know.
No,
the audio won't work, right?
That won't work. But
okay.
You can talk about it.
So yeah, I mean, look. Elon Musk came out and said that within a year he's going to have, or Tesla's going to have, 1 million robo-taxis in the Tesla network, which is similar to, like, he compared it to an Uber/Airbnb, because people are now able to rent out their cars as in the Uber pool, right? In an Uber-like pool, right? Yep. So basically, he said the existing app is going to have, be updated, or just be updated the app, and you'll be able to say put out to network or put out to fleet, or I forget the terminology he was using. But the bottom line is, he says that all of the cars that are being manufactured now with the new chips, the new hardware, they are pending a software upgrade to be fully autonomous, to be robo-taxis, to move around and pick people up, and you can earn money on it. He even gave some quotes about the potential money you could earn. Like, you can make up to $30,000 a year leasing out your vehicle to this Tesla network.
Yeah,
that's what he said, right?
That is what he said. They're saying that every single vehicle that is in production now, so that means last year, what I had understood a while back, as is a bit of a retraction on my part, I had thought that all the vehicles were 100% ready to go, pending software. So that apparently isn't the case. If you have a Tesla now and you didn't buy it in the last month or so, chances are it's older hardware. Now,
can they retrofit the hardware?
There's no information. They probably will. because it's much more about the CPU processing power on board. The sensors are already there. If you've ever driven in a Tesla, you know that it can see vehicles and it shows you all sorts of things on the display, what's going on. So the sensors are all in place. But it's processing power on board that they had to upgrade, I guess, to get the full autonomous capability.
Okay. So this is all like the minutiae of it, but what do you make of this claim? In 1 year?
In 1 year, he's going to have it? Well, I think the technology has been getting there. Every single Tesla out there has been gathering data to help them generate these self-driving algorithms. Whether or not it's legal in certain areas.
He was talking about that. He said we
that.
won't be able to get approval in lots of different locations, but
sure.
in certain areas they will be able to.
But it's
I mean,
coming.
this is the future now. A year.
Absolutely.
If you had asked me, I don't know, but if someone had asked you how far down the road, because this was a discussion we've been talking about for years, how far down the road would this particular capability be? What would you have said? 5 years? 3 years?
Probably 5 years.
Right?
I'm thinking it's going to move very, very slowly because we're dealing with human lives, and they're going to be very, very pragmatic.
You think policy is going to slow it down?
Policy is going to slow it down, and I think that's probably what he's going to run into. He said,
Right.
we'll get certified in certain places, but those will be certain places outside the United States.
Okay. Well, like Dubai or something.
Really,
like that, right?
whatever it happens to be. The other thing from that article I really, really liked was that he said 30% would go back to Tesla for their subscribing.
He said we'll make about 20 or 30% on that.
He said 25 to 30, and but that's like the going rate for everything. I see that on Apple iTunes. If you make a piece of music and you put it on iTunes, they take 30%. You put it on some. It's like everybody's taking just that much.
I see.
So it's kind of funny
Interesting.
that was the number they came up with.
Yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, this is exciting stuff. If you asked me, to have the capability to do that and to be at a policy being the limiting factor. I mean, I think that's actually pretty good if we're that far down the road.
Absolutely.
A couple of other things to just share in the last few minutes of news and events. Today is Arbor Day, which is apparently I think it's the 150th anniversary of Arbor Day. It's the.
Is it really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and it's the I believe it is the fourth Friday or the last Friday in April has the National Arbor Day, and Hawaii is actually, they have state days as well associated with when it's good to plant trees and stuff like that. Hawaii is the first Friday in November, but it's pretty interesting time to be hitting this 150th Arbor Day celebration. Mm-hmm. And we have some cool stuff going on in Maui related to reforestation, which I think is kind of directly in line with Arbor Day. So there's a Maui Now article that says the state's first forest carbon offset project is underway on Maui. This is really cool. There's about 250,000 native trees and shrubs on leeward slopes of Haleakala being planted over the last 3 years. And this is going to be a program where a third party comes in and evaluates the biomass. These plants have the capability of sequestering carbon, right?
Right.
And that third party values that carbon, and then you're able to sell those credits to other organizations, companies, people, and then take that money that comes in and then reinvest it in the reforestation project.
And you're continuing to
cool
plant more
business
trees.
model.
I think it makes a lot of sense. It's really interesting, and certainly for people who don't have another way to kind of green their business, this is a good way to support forests in other places.
Yeah, and then state officials estimate that reforesting 4,700 acres on Maui's Kahikinui and Nakula forest reserves will withdraw an estimated 94,000 metric tons of carbon from the atmosphere. I love having all of these really innovative things happening here in Maui. Okay, last thing, we do have an article I want you to check out in Maui Time. It's New GEMS program takes Hawaii closer to green energy goals. That's actually the content of our show today. We're going to come right back. We'll hear directly from the executive director, Mrs. Gwen Yamamoto Lau, and she'll be able to tell us all about this article, but and about her program and about how it was launched. So shall we go to commercial and come back with Gwen?
Yep.
Pantech Design is ushering the world into a new age of home energy automation through the convergence of smart home technologies and renewable energy management. Unifying solar energy production, intelligent energy storage, and smart breaker technologies with smart home devices, Pantech Design's complete home energy automation suite incorporates unprecedented control of lighting, shades, climate, security, hot water, electric vehicle charging, and many other systems. Contact Pantech today at pantechdesign.com.
Sundrum Solar is the manufacturer of a revolutionary thermal collector that fits on the underside of your standard PV panel to maximize energy capture per square foot. The Sundrum Solar Hybrid PVT system, combined photovoltaic and thermal, holds the world record for peak efficiency, capturing an astounding 86% usable energy. Learn how Sundrum Solar vastly improves electric, heating, and cooling economics at sundrumsolar.com.
LG is a leader in the home electronics industry and manufactures some of the most popular PV panels, as well as many other appliances we've come to know and appreciate over the years. The same LG brand offers the LG Chem Resu battery line for your home energy storage needs. Here in Hawaii, their primary model is the LG 10H Resu with 9.3 kilowatt hours of usable capacity. The LG 10H Resu can be used both to maximize consumption of solar energy at home and also functions as a source of backup power in the event that the grid goes down. LG Chem has increased production of their battery line for Hawaii's renewable energy solar market. Contact your local solar provider to learn more about the LG Chem 10H Resu battery. Okay, we're back here. That was our wonderful sponsors. Thanks so much to Sundrum and Pantech and LG Chem for keeping the solar coaster on the tracks.
Absolutely. Love you guys.
We're really fortunate to have a great guest speaker today, Gwen Yamamoto Lau, the Executive Director of what, Jay?
The Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority.
Okay, welcome, Gwen. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to speak with us here at the Solar Coaster about your program. There's a lot of wonderful things happening with GEMS, if I can call it that, over the last few years. And more recently, you have this on-bill financing thing, which is kind of what was the impetus for the call. So, Gwen, can you tell us about your background and kind of what's going on with your organization?
Yeah, sure. So, I have about 30 years of commercial lending experience in traditional banking environments, but it was extra meaningful to for me to lead a community development financial institution where we focused on providing permanent financing for affordable housing, rental projects, leveraging low-income housing tax credits, 504 lending, and energy financing. And as such, I find this position with AA. We are an attached agency to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. HGIA, which was constituted in November of 2014 out of Act 211 Session Laws of 2013, leverages public and private capital to deploy clean energy infrastructure that would contribute towards the state's 100% clean energy goals, as well as helping ratepayers lower their energy costs.
So this is a wonderful organization that is here effectively to make getting into a renewable energy system more affordable, easier, more practical for a greater, I would say, diversity of our community. Does that sound right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is a big deal. And Gwen, just so you know, Jay and I have been doing the Solar Coaster for a couple of years. I've been a solar installation fella here in Maui for nearly 10 years. So we've seen the kind of deployment and the ramp up of the renewable energy industry out here. And financing has traditionally been a complex piece of the puzzle. So it's wonderful to see new alternatives being brought to bear. So I'm really glad to see this. So now GEMS, can you give us a little bit of sense of how GEMS started and kind of where it's come?
What does it stand for, first of all?
Yeah, what does GEMS stand for?
Okay, so it stands for Green Energy Market Securitization Program. So that's quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
We think GEMS is a lot easier to say and certainly easier to remember.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then it's been around for a little while now. How many years has it been up and running?
Yeah,
GEMS in and of itself?
It's almost 5 years old. We've been around since 2014. And as mentioned, we were, established to facilitate clean energy and provide flexible financing. As with any new program, when it was constituted back in 2014, it takes a little bit of time to implement. However, I'm so very proud of what our team has been able to accomplish over the past 2 years. And in fact, we are now in this process of seeking additional loan capital, as we only have about $35 million available to lend and about $20 million of requests in our pipeline.
So you have 20 million of requests. You have 35 million available. Does that mean that you're looking to recapitalize the bucket of money? I mean, what kind of a run time do we have in front of us?
Yeah, so we are certainly looking to seek new additional loan capital, but more importantly, what I've been doing over the past 2 years is leveraging our funds with other funds to make it a public-private partnership, and so. With 20 million in projects, the goal is not to fund 100% of that with GEMS funds. It's to leverage it with other capital.
Gotcha. Okay, well, what our listeners I think are going to be really interested in is how can this impact them? And one of the things that got us really excited about was the on-bill financing program, and that's a little bit of language. That's a little bit of language right there that gets people really excited, because what I take that to mean, just as a potential client and as a person in the industry, is that anyone with a utility account can potentially get funding for a renewable energy system. And is that correct? Is that what on-bill financing means?
Yes, in a nutshell. And let me give you a little bit of history on the on-bill program, because it's been a journey, although it's been a very worthwhile journey.
Yeah.
So, back in 2011, our state legislature enacted Act 204, which directed the Hawaii Public Utility Commission to investigate the viability of an on-bill financing program for electric utility companies, customers to purchase or acquire renewable energy or energy efficiency devices through their, exactly as you said, assessment through their electric bill. And the legislature had asked the PUC that if a program is deemed viable, to then establish it via decision and order. So, since then, the Commission started working on this program. In February of 2013, they found the on-bill program to be viable, and so then they started to work towards implementing and designing an on-bill program. In January of 2015, they established and published a program manual. Back then, it was called the Hawaii Energy Bill Saver Program, which was to be administered by Hawaii Energy, as you know, our ratepayer-funded contractor to the Commission. However, due to some challenges in acquiring a finance program administrator for the Hawaii Energy Program, in May 2016, the Commission suspended the establishment of that program and then directed the Hawaiian electric companies to work directly with HGIA to design and implement the on-bill repayment mechanism for the exclusive use of HGIA. So that's kind of a history in a nutshell. What is the on-bill program? So I will say, while on-bill financing is not new to the nation, we are the 36th state to launch on-bill program. Due to the foresight and leadership of our governor, the legislature, and the Public Utilities Commission, Hawaii's program has inclusive, unique design elements that are not that is unique to Hawaii, and it's not available in many of the other programs. This information is coming from the Environmental and Energy Study Institute out of Washington, D.C., and they were excited about our program because of a couple of things. It enables renters to participate. I think we're the first in the nation to do that. It also is available to 95% of the state's population through the Hawaiian electric companies. Most of the other on-bill programs are being administered by rural utilities, and that is another unique difference. Ours is being administered by HGIA, which is our Hawaii's Green Bank. And last but not least, most limit their financing to energy efficiency retrofits, while ours also includes solar PV financing.
There's a lot there. This is wonderful, Gwen. I'm really excited about this. So what I just heard, to just in a nutshell, is that the bulk of our community can access this program. It's not just energy efficiency retrofits; it's also solar, and we're going to talk more about some of those technologies in a little bit. So that looks like, and is this in HEI territories exclusively, or can we work within Kauai as well? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's exclusively for the Hawaiian Electric Company's territory.
So if someone is in Big Island, if someone's in Oahu, Maui, Molokai, Lanai, they have access to this program.
Exactly.
And if they have a utility account, whether they own a home or are a renter, they can potentially gain funding for their renewable energy system or their energy efficiency retrofits. And this is really a very, very exciting update. I got to tell you, when I think, and Gwen, when I think about utility bills, I tend to think of them from the perspective of a person that's trying to compel people to get a renewable energy system, right? Because that's been my world for the last 10 years. So when I think about a utility contract, I often think of it as or a utility bill as a de facto contract for many, many years into the future that really can be changed at any given moment based on the cost of electricity, right? So, and I try to kind of communicate that at times with people. So now the opportunity here is that they can people can say, you know what, I want to make this decision about my electric bill. I want to make energy from another source. I want to put it on either my home or my landlord's home, which is amazing, and I want to understand how that's done. And I can reduce my out of pocket, and then I can impact my overall carbon footprint. I mean, this is really cool stuff. You know, it's exciting. I mean, thank you for doing it.
Yeah, that's the
thank you to everybody there, right? That's wonderful. So, and another small thing, I don't want to say too much here, but I think that Governor Ige is doing an amazing job, and is really, this fella is putting together a heck of a legacy, don't you think?
Absolutely.
He's influencing the entire country, right? Another example of his foresight, kind of, staking down new territory. So, really great stuff. So let's navigate this, Gwen. Now that we get a sense for what it is, and one last thing: how long? When was this current iteration of the bill financing program initiated? How long are we into it?
Yeah, so the PUC gave us conditional approval back in April of 2018, last year.
Mm-hmm.
They did allow us to start taking in applications come June 1st. Meanwhile, we were working with the Hawaiian Electric companies on the programming side to transmit, automatically and electronically transmit data, loan data back and forth between our servicer and their systems to get our loan repayment, our program charge on their utility bill. So that finally came. We finished the final testing, and we are good to go. We're operational as of April 8th.
April 8th of 19.
19, yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is super timely.
Yeah.
So I knew it was recent, but I didn't realize how recent. April 8th. So what are we about? Does that put us about, 16 days out?
Right.
Right as of this conversation, right?
Fantastic. Okay, so we have this new wonderful opportunity here to democratize access to renewable energies in our community, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're listening out there, folks, and you have a utility account in your name,
You get an electric bill.
you get an electric bill.
Say that.
If you get an electric bill,
Make it easy.
if you get an
Utility
electric
account.
bill, everybody out there that gets an electric bill, raise their hand.
There you go.
If you get an electric bill, now you can have a renewable energy system. It doesn't even matter if you own a home. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's walk through this. Help us understand, Gwen, in really simple terms, because I'm not the fastest guy in the bunch here. So help me understand how this works. Let's say I have I want to get a renewable energy system. I'm ready to make this kind of a change. What types of technologies are applicable? What can I select from?
Yeah, so for residential systems, we can finance solar hot water heaters, heat pumps, and solar PV. For commercial installations, we can finance solar PV as well as any commercial energy efficiency retrofit.
Commercial energy efficiency retrofit. Okay.
Does that include stuff like lighting?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, I'll explain how it works. So when you install solar, solar PV, solar hot water, or even commercial energy efficiency retrofits, what these installations do is they reduce your energy electric consumption.
Mm-hmm.
This lowers your utility bill. What we do is we apply the savings that they are enjoying from their retrofit to pay for the green energy installation through their monthly utility bill. And there are only two requirements to qualify for the program. One is they must be a current customer of the Hawaiian Electric companies, as you said, on Oahu, Maui, Lanai, Molokai, or Hawaii Island, with no disconnection notices over the past 12 months. That's the first requirement. The second requirement is that their projected utility bill must be at least 10% lower than their current bill after the installation, but including the program charge to pay for the installation.
Got it. Okay, so let's walk through an example. Do you mind if we do that?
Sure.
Okay, so, and I'd like to walk through one that I'm kind of very familiar with, a tried and true technology, solar hot water. This is something a technology that we see on nearly every building because it's a legal requirement outside of the variance for new construction. It's a 100-year-old technology that's been optimized, but kind of hasn't changed all that much, right? So let's say you go about and you go out and you find a contractor that's a GEMS approved. Can I call that contractor that? GEMS approved contractor, right? And you say, I want to get a solar hot water system. I don't have one right now, or I need a new one because my old one's broken, which is often the case, right? Mm-hmm. So that client, that installer comes out, gives you a project bid. Let's say it costs something like
$8,000 for a 120 gallon with a couple of Sun Earth collectors up top, right? Full installation. Now you've got a 30% federal tax credit. You've got a 35% state tax credit. I think up to $22.50, which is I think the max for that technology.
Right.
And then okay, so then we say we understand the math of this, and my return on investment generally is less than about 3 years because the savings are this is a very highly efficient technology that basically radiates liquid, heats it up, and uses that hot water. There's no losses in electrical staging and stuff like that. So let's say I want to do this. What's the next step, and how do I pay it back, and how does it work out, and how do I choose the loan term and all that jazz?
Great question. So what they would do is they would apply. They can either apply online, or they can download our applications from our website and mail it in. They would apply. One of the different.
1 second. Who is they? The installer or the building owner?
Homeowners?
The homeowner. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. And so we will ask them for their existing utility bill. That's one of the things that we require because we're looking for utility bill savings. Solar hot water is, as you know, one of the best things to install first because you reduce your consumption before you go into renewable. Typically, as Hawaii Energy will tell you, there is about a 35%, maybe 40% reduction of kilowatt hour consumption with the installation of solar hot water.
Right.
So it really, as you said, makes a lot of good financial sense. So tax credits are great, but tax credits are not something that you get immediately. And so what we do is a bit depending, they're eligible for up to 100% financing if they qualify. We take a look at their current consumption. We use Hawaii Energy's metrics to determine what the reduction will be based on their household size and based on the island that they are living. And then we add back the program charge. We stretch out the loan over a 20-year period.
So it's standard to be a 20-year period.
Yes. It's, and
can you prepay it?
They can prepay it, no prepayment penalties. But what happens is when we stretch it out, it lowers the monthly payment, makes it very easy for them to pay.
Perfect. So let's say. Oh, sorry. Did I interrupt you? Did you want to say something more?
Yeah, I just wanted to finish. A couple more things. So when they get their tax credit after they file their tax returns, they can certainly pay down the principal of their loan, and we can re-amortize it to make their loan payments even smaller. Again, no payment penalties. The other part about solar hot water, as you know, is there's some maintenance involved, and so they may have to change out that anode rod every 4 or 5 years. They may have to replace that tank maybe in year 11. And so based on their estimated savings, if they qualify, we also approve, and this is the ratepayers option, some maintenance reserve for them. So that in year 5, if they need to get a tune-up and replace an anode rod, and they need $300 for that, we'll have it available for them. Year 11, if they need $1,000 for their new tank, and they qualify, we have it available for them.
Amazing.
That's phenomenal.
No, this is big. So I have a bunch of questions. Is it okay if I start asking some? Okay. So, all right. So let's say we're back on that $8,000 price tag. This is just an arbitrary number that I came up with, right? And you've got a 30% federal, right? And that's what, $2,400? Is that what that is? You little math, Jay. And let's say you get a $2,250 stateside. Okay, let's just put that on the side. So your net cost. What's the net cost on that? About $2,000 or $3,000? Get that, Jay?
Jay's doing some math. Type stuff.
You're a smart guy, Jay. You can do it. So let's say that that $8,000, you take a loan out, or we're not taking a loan. You're working with the GEMS program for that $8,000. So let's say that client, that person, that homeowner has a $300 bill, and maybe they do get a 30% savings, right? So that would be a $90 per month saving on that bill. So they go from $300 to $210. Does this sound right, guys? Am I going down the right tracks here?
Yep.
So now you got a $210 bill. Now that's right now. After installation, you're stoked. You're like, wow, I just saved $90 a month. Now, what do you think of that payment on over 20 years for $8,000? Is that obvious to you? That rough math, what that might be? Is that like $20 or something, or $30?
No, I think, I'm just taking it out of thin air because I don't have a calculator with me. I think it's probably about $40 maybe.
$40. Okay, great. So you have let's say that is it. We're just, and once again, folks, we're just kind of just using some random numbers here to give a sense of what it could look like. But $300 bill. Put in this solar hot water heater, get maybe around $90 in savings. You have a $40 loan repayment. You net it. You just had cash positive $50.
Yeah.
Right, on a monthly basis.
Every month.
Does that sound right to you, Gwen?
Yes.
That is wonderful. So you go through this process. Not only are you reducing your carbon footprint considerably, right, by about a third, right, but you are also netting $50 positive cash flow on a monthly basis.
Paying less on your bill. Just say that.
Paying less on your bill. Okay, okay. There you go. So that is,
and it comes on the bill. I mean, there's nothing even. It's not even inconvenient. You have to take care of another loan or anything. It's still the same old bill that you've been paying.
Yeah.
Month to month, every single.
Let's explore that a little bit now, if it's okay. So is this loan something that appears on your credit report, or does it show as a debt? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's not, we call it an obligation, and we call it an on-bill obligation. And so it does not appear in your credit report. And in fact, the obligation is not
better and better.
Yeah, it's not made to a person, it's actually made to a meter, the utility meter.
No kidding.
And that's
how the rental thing works. I get it.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly how it works with renters. So using your same scenario, let's say instead of a homeowner, that was a renter. So the renter would save on the utility bill.
Yeah.
But the renter might not be there forever. Mm-hmm. So the renter will give their landlord notice of move out.
Yeah.
When we worked on the design of this program, we wanted to make it a win-win for both tenants and rent landlords.
Yeah, that's great.
Because the hardest thing is to convince your landlord to invest in solar so that a tenant can reduce their energy costs. With on-bill, the tenant wins by having a lower utility bill. The landlord's incentive to do that is they own the system. They own the solar system, so they get the solar tax credit benefits as well as depreciation.
Well, that's interesting. So when a renter gets the system, they're not owning it, but rather the landlord or the
property
owner is owning it,
yeah.
And that's from day one, not when they transition it. You're saying?
Yeah, day one.
That's interesting because it would be possible theoretically for the renter to own it, wouldn't it? Because you don't have to own the property to gain tax credits on a system. But
right.
That's not how it's designed.
That's not how it's designed.
A very important distinction. I'm glad we figured that one out. Okay, very good. So this is pretty. We're kind of jumping in our seats right now.
Yeah, right? We're all
right?
giving each other looks.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
This is a big deal, folks. This is a big deal, folks. You get a win-win out here. Whether you're renting, you get to reduce your bills. Whether you're a homeowner, you get to reduce your bills.
And those bill reductions can be really significant. If you go whole hog into solar hot water, you don't have solar hot water for whatever reason, go ahead and solar hot water, you get PV electric, you start driving an electric car.
You can make some big impacts.
You size the system right.
Yeah.
You can really, really reduce that bill.
Jeez. Yeah, that's
it's almost nothing.
So let's talk about some of the parameters. Jay's kind of led us into this conversation a little bit, and let's stick with residential for a little bit, and we might have to bring you back on for commercial, frankly, later, Gwen, if you can find the time. But I really want to focus in on residential, if that's all right for everybody. So there is a commercial program. It looks spectacular as well. But let's think about residential installation. So what are the boundaries of this loan? Is there a threshold? Is there a certain minimum or maximum?
No minimum, no maximum. It is, though, tied to the utility bill savings.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you need that 10%.
We need that 10% in order to approve that.
Generally speaking, we can do 10% pretty easily, though, right? I mean, that's well within our industry, don't you think?
It is. I would say, honestly, it is. However, if one's bill is already really small, it's hard to get 10% out of a small bill.
Copy that.
Sure.
But typically our families in Hawaii are larger, and we have a lot of multiple families living together. So some of the bills that we actually see, it's unbelievably high.
Here's a question for you. Let's say you have new meters or new builds happening, and there isn't a historical reference. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so one of the things we asked for in our approval with the PUC is if it's for a new development, that we would use a typical energy consumption for similar type,
Gotcha.
Either whether it's a 2-bedroom apartment or a 3-bedroom house.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. good. Okay, so is it conceivable that one could put in a solar hot water system and then a solar electric system at the same time or at different times under this program?
Yeah, so we can finance multiple energy improvements. However, every energy improvement needs to meet that 10% threshold.
Sure. Okay, great. Now, I think we're going to lead right up to the really obvious question. I want to spend a little bit of time on this. But some of them, clearly, some of them require energy storage. Now, as I understand it, we're not at a place where energy storage is incorporated into this program. Is that the case? When will it be? What's your outlook?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So we are actually gearing up to go back to the PUC to ask for approval to finance energy storage batteries. However, as I mentioned previously, my goal has always been to leverage our funds with other funds. So we have been financing solar plus storage systems. It's just not 100% GEMS financing.
So we're using another financing body. Is that like a credit union or a bank, or is that some of the national lenders out there?
Right. Other lenders. So we blend our financing with theirs.
Do you manage that process, or is that something that happens at the installer level and the bidding level? How does that work?
Yeah, so we work with any financial institution, and typically we don't rely. So we basically tell both the contractors and our borrowers to let us call whoever you're already banking with. They're familiar with them, they trust them, and if they have not financed or co-lended with GEMS in the past, we go through it step by step to make it very easy for them.
Wonderful. How long does this process take typically for your average residential applicant?
Yeah, so on the residential side, we haven't, because the loan sizes are much smaller, it's a little bit harder to divide up a loan that way. We have, though, just launched a $20 million fund. This is more for consumer leases, so it allows a consumer to finance through a PPA, not to own, but through a PPA. So we're just launching that $20 million fund, which allows the PV plus storage.
Okay, well, this is interesting. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but did I just hear that there is, in addition to everything we just described, a power purchase agreement option for solar plus storage?
Right.
Is that available presently, or is that pending?
We're in the process of signing documents next week.
Oh my goodness, the timing! This is pretty exciting here. So that is really important, folks, and that's important for a couple different reasons. But one of those reasons is that if you can't take advantage of tax credits, then a power purchase agreement or a lease, and these two mechanisms, although they're technically different, they're starting to look more and more similar the way the contracts are written. That means that if you are on a fixed income, perhaps you're retired, you don't see any tax liability in your future, you can apply for the PPA version of this and get your savings that way. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly.
Oof, man, there is a lot in this. This is very good stuff. Okay, well, why don't we? Where do you want to go next with this, Jay? Do you want to touch base on some of the other commercial? You want to just dig a little deeper?
I'd like to find out. So installers out there, you have a vetted installer list. Where can people find that if they want to find out who to talk to about getting their at least start the process rolling? Right, they need to get a quote before they can start talking to you.
Right. So if they just go to our website, www.gems.hawaii.gov, on it is our applications, and they actually don't necessarily have to get a contractor first. We've had many applicants who see if they're step one eligible first, and then once we give them the green light, they go and on our website to look at approved contractors and choose the contractors from there. And on our, as I said, on our website is the list of approved contractors.
Excellent. Okay.
Great. Okay.
You want to say that website again for everybody, please?
It's www.gems.hawaii.gov.
Excellent. Okay.
I gotta say, Gwen, my take on this is that assuming the funding holds out and that public partnership is robust, and there's this program, given the scale of the available utility programs, and I would say the speed at which applications are moving through, and then now this diversity of not only funding types, purchasing loans, as well as PPAs, plus different technology, solar hot water, solar, and in and of itself, and then soon solar plus battery, that this could really make a significant impact on our community. What's your what's your gut take on this, Gwen? What kind of impact do you see? Are we going to go from? Let me just throw this out there like a crazy man. Are we going to go from 20% PV adoption rate to 40% because of GEMS?
So I like you, I anticipate a step up in adoption, and I will have to say this because I'm putting my community development hat on right now. And again, while GEMS is for everyone, what I'm most excited about is it provides access to clean energy to those who did not have access before. So I would love to see a step up in the renter market as well as the low and moderate income population and nonprofits.
As would we. How can we help you to that end, Gwen? Is there anything we can do for you?
What you're doing right now is much appreciated.
Okay, excellent. Well, perhaps we can get you on air again in the future and talk more about the commercial component, because those are kind of I like to say big rocks. I use it too often, this phrase, but those are the big rocks out there. The opportunities to push forward, big impacts on our grid. I mean, some of these large institutions have huge electric bills, and those can make big impacts too, right? So it'd be really interesting to talk more about some of the applicable technology and some of the approaches there. Maybe we can do that in another show. Do you think you can carve out some time in the future and we could get together again, Gwen?
Sure, that'd be great.
Very good. Jay, do you have some? Oh, there it is.
That's our signal.
That signals the end of the show. We want to thank you, Gwen, for your time today. This is Gwen Yamamoto Lau, the Executive
Director of the Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. Again, their website is GEMS, GEMS.hawaii.gov. I just looked at it. It's fantastic. Go there.
I cannot, and I don't think we can overstate how important and what type of an impact this can have on our community. This is a big deal, folks. Everybody can get renewable energies now as of April 9th.
Yes.
Right? Welcome to the revolution, folks. Gwen, thank you very much. Is there any last thing you'd like to say to our listeners?
I just want to thank the governor for his commitment to clean energy, the legislature and the PUC for the vision and foresight to create an inclusive on-bill program that allows more ratepayers to participate. Really want a big mahalo to our GEMS-approved solar contractors and energy stakeholders. And last but certainly not least, thank you to the Hawaiian Electric companies and our HGIA team for implementing this program.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, this has been the Solar Coaster. We are sponsored by Sundrum Solar, Pantech Design, and LG Chem. This has been a heck of a show. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful Aloha Friday and a great weekend ahead.